Have you ever found yourself irresistibly drawn to a bag of chips, a chocolate bar, or a fast food burger, even when you weren't particularly hungry? You're not alone. Ultra-processed foods have a unique grip on our cravings and consumption patterns. But why exactly are these foods so hard to resist? In this video, we'll dive deep into the science behind ultra-processed foods, explore new perspectives on their addictive nature, and back our findings with compelling data. Understanding ultra-processed foods. First, let's define what we mean by ultra-processed foods. According to the NOVA classification, ultra-processed foods are formulations of ingredients, mostly for industrial use, from a series of industrial processes, hence ultra-processed. These foods typically include ingredients you wouldn't find in your kitchen, like hydrogenated oils, modified starches, protein isolates, and artificial additives. Common examples include soda, packaged snacks, candy, instant noodles, and pre-prepared frozen meals. The science of addiction. Dopamine and reward pathways. One key reason ultra-processed foods are so hard to resist lies in their impact on our brain's reward system. When we consume these foods, they stimulate the release of dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. This dopamine release is often more intense than what we experience with whole foods. Studies have shown that the brain's reward system responds more vigorously to foods high in sugar, fat, and salt, key components of ultra-processed foods. For instance, a study published in Nature Neuroscience revealed that high-fat, high-sugar foods can trigger dopamine release in a similar way to addictive drugs like cocaine. The bliss point. The food industry meticulously engineers ultra-processed foods to hit what is known as the bliss point. This is the perfect combination of sugar, fat, and salt that triggers the maximum release of dopamine, creating a feeling of euphoria and intense pleasure. This bliss point makes these foods highly palatable, encouraging overconsumption. Howard Moskowitz, a market researcher, coined the term bliss point. His work has shown that slight changes in the formulation of a product can significantly impact its desirability. For example, just the right amount of sugar in a soda can make it more appealing than a slightly less or more sweet version. The role of texture and mouthfeel. Crunch, creaminess, and contrast. Another factor that makes ultra-processed foods so appealing is their engineered texture and mouthfeel. Food scientists use a variety of techniques to create the perfect crunch in a chip, the ideal creaminess in a chocolate bar, or the right contrast between textures in a snack. A study published in the Journal of Texture Studies found that the crunchiness of potato chips significantly increased participants' desire to consume them. The sound and feel of the crunch were found to enhance the overall eating experience, making the food more satisfying and difficult to resist. Dynamic contrast. Dynamic contrast refers to the combination of contrasting textures within a single food item. Think of an Oreo cookie with its crisp outer layer and creamy filling, or a fried chicken piece with its crunchy exterior and juicy interior. This contrast keeps our taste buds excited and engaged, making it harder to stop eating once we start. Emotional and psychological factors. Comfort food. Ultra-processed foods are often marketed as comfort foods. During stressful times, we might turn to these foods for emotional relief. This emotional eating is reinforced by the pleasure and reward response triggered by these foods. A survey conducted by the American Psychological Association found that 38% of adults reported overeating or eating unhealthy foods due to stress. Ultra-processed foods, with their high palatability and immediate gratification, are often the go-to choice for stress-induced eating. Social and cultural influences. Social and cultural factors also play a role in our consumption of ultra-processed foods. Advertisements, social gatherings, and even traditions can influence our eating habits. For instance, the ritual of having popcorn at the movies or celebrating with a cake during birthdays embeds ultra-processed foods into our social fabric. The role of marketing. Targeted advertising. The food industry spends billions of dollars annually on advertising ultra-processed foods. These advertisements often target children and young adults, creating lifelong consumers. According to a report by the Rudd Center for Food Policy and Obesity, the food and beverage industry spent $13.5 billion on advertising in 2016, with a significant portion promoting ultra-processed foods. Celebrity endorsements and influencer marketing. Celebrity endorsements and influencer marketing have also become powerful tools in promoting ultra-processed foods. When a favorite celebrity or influencer endorses a product, it creates a sense of trust and desirability. This strategy is particularly effective among younger demographics who are highly influenced by social media. The economics of ultra-processed foods. Cost and convenience. Ultra-processed foods are often cheaper and more convenient than whole foods. This affordability and ease of access make them an attractive option for busy individuals and families on a budget. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that a diet consisting of ultra-processed foods can cost significantly less than a diet based on whole foods. Food deserts and accessibility. In many urban and rural areas, known as food deserts, access to fresh and whole foods is limited. In these areas, ultra-processed foods become a primary food source due to their availability in convenience stores and fast food outlets. According to the USDA, approximately 19 million Americans live in food deserts, making ultra-processed foods a staple in their diet. Let's dive into the health implications of consuming ultra-processed foods. Obesity and metabolic syndrome. The consumption of ultra-processed foods is strongly linked to obesity and metabolic syndrome. These foods are energy-dense, high in unhealthy fats and sugars, and low in fiber and nutrients, contributing to excessive calorie intake and poor health outcomes. A study published in JAMA Pediatrics found that children and adolescents who consumed higher amounts of ultra-processed foods had significantly higher rates of obesity. Additionally, research in the BMJ indicated that increased consumption of ultra-processed foods is associated with a higher risk of developing metabolic syndrome, which includes conditions like hypertension, high blood sugar, and abnormal cholesterol levels. Chronic diseases. Regular consumption of ultra-processed foods is also linked to an increased risk of chronic diseases such as heart disease, diabetes, and certain cancers. A comprehensive study in the British Medical Journal found that a 10% increase in the consumption of ultra-processed foods was associated with a 12% increase in the risk of cancer. The gut-brain axis. Microbiome disruption. Ultra-processed foods can negatively impact our gut microbiome, the diverse community of microorganisms living in our digestive tract. These foods are often low in fiber and high in artificial additives, which can disrupt the balance of beneficial bacteria in the gut. Research published in Frontiers in Microbiology has shown that a diet high in ultra-processed foods can reduce the diversity of the gut microbiome, leading to issues like inflammation and a weakened immune system. This disruption can also affect the gut-brain axis, influencing mood, behavior, and cognitive function. Inflammation and mental health. The inflammatory response triggered by ultra-processed foods can also impact mental health. Chronic inflammation is linked to conditions such as depression and anxiety. A study in Public Health Nutrition found that individuals who consumed high amounts of ultra-processed foods had a higher prevalence of depressive symptoms. But how to break the cycle? Mindful eating. One way to combat the lure of ultra-processed foods is through mindful eating. This practice involves paying full attention to the experience of eating and savoring each bite. Mindful eating can help us become more aware of our hunger and satiety cues, reducing the likelihood of overeating. A study in the Journal of Obesity found that individuals who practiced mindful eating had a significant reduction in binge eating episodes and emotional eating. This approach can help us reconnect with our body's natural signals and make healthier food choices. Cooking at home. Cooking at home with whole, minimally processed ingredients is another effective strategy. Preparing meals from scratch allows us to control the ingredients and avoid the hidden sugars, unhealthy fats, and artificial additives found in ultra-processed foods. A survey by the Hartman Group found that home-cooked meals are associated with better diet quality and lower calorie intake. Those who frequently cook at home tend to consume more fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, contributing to better overall health. Policy and regulation. Policymakers can also play a role in reducing the consumption of ultra-processed foods through regulations and public health initiatives. This can include measures like taxing sugary drinks, implementing clearer food labeling, and restricting the marketing of unhealthy foods to children. Countries like Mexico and the UK have introduced taxes on sugary drinks, resulting in decreased consumption and improved public health outcomes. Additionally, clearer food labeling such as the traffic light system used in the UK helps consumers make more informed choices by highlighting the nutritional content of foods. To conclude, ultra-processed foods are hard to resist due to their impact on our brain's reward system, engineered textures, emotional appeal, and aggressive marketing. While they offer convenience and affordability, their consumption is linked to serious health risks. By understanding the science behind these foods and taking proactive steps, we can break the cycle of dependency and make healthier choices. Next time you reach for that bag of chips or candy bar, remember the factors at play and consider a healthier alternative. Your body and mind will thank you.